All right. Thank you all so much for joining us today for the launch of Crowdfund Montana. We really appreciate you making the time to be here. Super excited to have you. And we're just going to dive in. My name is Andrew Connor. I am the director of the Center for Community Ownership. And I'm going to just tell you a little bit about how Crowdfund Montana came to be and give you a little bit of backstory on that. And then we're going to hear from Michelle Timish, who is the founder of Crowdfund Main Street, which is the entity that has built Crowdfund Montana for us here. And then we're also going to hear two quick pitches from one of our first offerings on the platform, the Pacific Northwest Rural Broadband Alliance. And then another entrepreneur we've been working with up in Great Falls, Thunderbolt Indoor Sports, which is going to be one of our next offerings to be launched on the platform. So I'm just going to start by saying, once again, we're super excited that the platform just went live about 2 weeks ago. And this is the URL there, crowdfundmontana.com. You can go check it out. And this all came to pass because my organization, the Center for Community Ownership, we do community-owned business and community-owned enterprise economic development work around the country. We basically work with places that have holes in their local economy that aren't being satisfied by chain stores, local entrepreneurs, local investors, and we help people organize together, raise capital to create businesses to fill those holes, to get the grocery store that they don't have, to fund a childcare center, to figure out a retail option if they have to drive 2 hours one way. And we work all over the country. We're based here in Missoula, Montana, but we work all over the place. And one of our amazing partners that we work with to help people in communities raise capital is Crowdfund Main Street. And Crowdfund Main Street is an investment crowdfunding platform that works, again, all over the US. And they work with community-oriented, values-driven businesses to raise money from communities, from their customers, and from people who support their missions and what they're doing. And I'm going to take a little moment here because I know some people might not be familiar with that phrase, investment crowdfunding. So you may have heard of crowdfunding in the traditional sense, which we call gift or reward or donation crowdfunding. And these are sites like Kickstarter or GoFundMe, Indiegogo. People have a project or something they're trying to do, and basically they're asking for money. And people who are interested in what they're doing, give it to them. And this is, can be a great way to get small amounts of capital. Basically, in return, though, maybe you get a free something, you get a t-shirt, you get your name on something, you get invited to a party. But through this traditional vein of crowdfunding, there's no ownership in the business that you're contributing money to. And there's no financial returns. You're not lending them money. You're not earning dividends. You don't own shares in their company. It's just a gift or donation. And this is where investment crowdfunding is different. So investment crowdfunding, which Crowdfund Main Street is an example of that, you actually can sell shares of your business. You can sell equity in your business. You can issue debt or borrow funds from people in your community. And you can offer financial returns for that. So it's not just a donation. It's truly an investment. And this is a new innovative thing that's only been in existence for about 5 or 6 years. For a really long time, it's been very difficult for local businesses to raise capital. There's been all sorts of barriers and obstacles to them raising money from their communities. And it's been really hard for people who want to invest in the business in their community to do so because of all these regulations and restrictions that now have been changed. So why is this important? Well, first of all, it just allows things to function on a very different scale. So donation and traditional crowdfunding sites like the one on the left, the average raise amount for those successful campaigns is about $7,000. And for sites that do investment crowdfunding, like Crowdfund Main Street and others that do that kind of work, the average successful raise amount is about $250,000. So it's just a very different scale of what's possible for a business or an organization that's trying to raise capital to start up or grow. You can just do a lot more because offering those financial returns and offering it as a true investment just seems to really make it a far more tangible thing. And there's other benefits too. You can raise money directly from the community. There's no gatekeepers. You don't have to know high net worth individuals. You don't have to prove yourself to the algorithm of a financial institution. You can raise money directly from the people who you need to persuade, which is the people in your community, the people in your network. There's also a huge potential pool of investors. Anybody can invest, regardless of their net worth or their income. So there's literally hundreds of millions of people in the country you can solicit investment from. When you go through this avenue, you can also advertise publicly, which you couldn't do previously and can't do under other restrictions. And also your investors become your best customers and your best supporters, your best evangelists. They're real advocates for you because they are invested not just in you personally, but also financially. Also, the people raising money can set the terms of their investment, which is a really powerful thing. It puts the entrepreneurs in the driver's seat to get investment that really works for them. And it also allows them to kind of stay in control of their business. So that's kind of just a quick snapshot of investment crowdfunding in general. And like I said, we work with Crowdfund Main Street on projects all over the country. And we got to talking, Michelle and I, and decided that it would be really cool if we took the kind of Crowdfund Main Street model, and if Crowdfund Main Street created a site that was dedicated to businesses and organizations in Montana. So with our support, because we love what they're doing and we're values aligned and we really think what they're doing is great, they created Crowdfund Montana. So this is the snapshot of the home page, which is live now. And it is hosting the first offering, like I said, that's up there. And Crowdfund Montana is a place where Montana-based businesses and nonprofit organizations can raise capital through investment crowdfunding. So we just thought that Montana would be a great place to do this for a couple of reasons. One, it's a great state with tons of entrepreneurs and tons of businesses. We obviously know that we have so many great people doing creative, innovative, interesting entrepreneurial work. And secondly, we know that as Montanans, we really support our businesses and organizations. There's so much pride that we have in the state that we thought this would be a great opportunity to cultivate a community of investors that want to support businesses and organizations in Montana and create a place where businesses and organizations can go to raise capital, especially if they're facing barriers to that access. So, we really want to make it possible to move money from the urban centers in Montana all over the state, the concentrations of capital to get to places where they might not have as much access to capital. And furthermore, attract capital from all over the country and the world, frankly, to Montana, because investors don't have to live in Montana, they can live anywhere. So we thought this was a great way to highlight businesses and organizations in Montana to potential investors everywhere. And I just want to give you kind of a quick sense of the scale, the potential scale of investment crowdfunding and the transformative power it has. So using the Federal Deposit Insurance Company, the FDIC, which regulates financial institutions, they have a lookup tool where you can see how much money is in bank accounts in certain zip codes. So I just did a quick analysis of the two zip codes here in Missoula, 59801 and 59802. And in checkings accounts, savings accounts, CDs, and money market accounts, this is how much money there is in bank branches in Missoula, over $2.5 billion. Now, some of that's, in business accounts, and some of that might be people who don't live here. People who live here might have money elsewhere. So it's not like a perfect measure, but this just gives you a sense of the scale of available capital that the people in a community like this have. And if redirecting even a portion of this towards local businesses can be really powerful and really transformative. And you might say well, sure, that's Missoula. These are two of the wealthiest zip codes in Montana. Fair enough. But I also looked at Malta, which is in the northeast corner of Montana, has a population of just a little over 2,000, and institutions in their zip code, 205 million. And that's a small rural community in Montana. So there is capital available, and we know that there are people who want to support businesses, and we know that there are great businesses here in Montana to support. And so that's why we're so excited to have Crowdfund Montana live now, to be this pathway to connect potential investors with businesses and organizations here in Montana. So I'll encourage you to go check out the site. I'll stop talking now. And we're going to hear now from Michelle Timish, who, like I said, is the founder of Crowdfund Main Street. Take it away, Michelle.
Can I see this, Sue?
Hi, everyone.
Nice to be here. Nice to meet all of you. I really appreciate, thank you, Andrew, for doing a great introduction about sort of the economic potential of investment crowdfunding. Crowdfund Main Street is extremely excited about collaborating with organizations like the Center for Community Ownership, because it is the people, the local people on the ground who know best what is going on in the community and what the needs are of the community. And because we are so values aligned with the Center for Community Ownership, we've been able to collaborate with Andrew. He's brought to our attention a lot of the needs that are in Montana. And we thought it would be a great place to start our launch of our local label platforms, because the truth is that in order to really change our economy and change our small businesses and frankly, save the middle class, the thing that's happening in our finance ecosystem is that the money doesn't get to where it needs to go, not in any sort of efficient way. I remember before I launched Crowdfund Main Street, going to things like the SBA meetings and hearing success stories that involved a 10-year timeline for getting funded, people losing their homes in the process, declaring bankruptcy, all of these things that just struck me as very odd that these would be the success stories in our communities and our business development. So I actually, a little bit of background about me, I've been a practicing attorney for the last few decades, and I was watching this legislation. It was actually the law that made it legal for all of us to participate in investing in small businesses, actually came in 2012, the Jobs Act of 2012. But because this is so revolutionary, opening up small business investing as an asset class to people who are not accredited investors, just regular folks. It took 4 years. It took the Securities and Exchange Commission 4 years to get the regulations. And that's why, as Andrew mentioned, we've had investment crowdfunding or regulation crowdfunding for only about 5 years. And it's taking off, it's doing really well. People are starting to understand the prowess and the impact that you can have by focusing on taking money out of Wall Street and putting it into Main Street. You know, just as a really simple example, when you buy stock in a Fortune 500 company, you know, listed on the S&P 500, you're not impacting that company's bottom line. You are simply taking the place of the individual who happens, or an individual who happens to be selling their shares in the company. When you invest, by contrast, in a company that's not public, a private company, a local small business, say, you are investing in that company's bottom line. And the beauty of investment crowdfunding is that there's a huge burden on the part of the companies that are looking to raise money this way. They have to have certain level of disclosures. They have to have a certain level of financials that are provided. And the thinking behind this is that if we're going to open up investing to anyone in the country and our territories, that we need to have a process. That's why it's required that you raise money on a platform that's licensed by the SEC and regulated by FINRA, which we are, so that we can make sure that everybody has access to the same information. That's the reason that this call will be available for recording. The idea is that this higher level of transparency than we're used to seeing in our small business investing universe is very different, and that this is a way for us to start educating people about ways that they can diversify. You know, we are not investment advisors, we're not licensed broker dealers, we have no special knowledge about investing, we don't give investment advice, But what we do is we encourage everyone to use investment crowdfunding as a place to look at potential deals, look at some of the things that are going on that people are raising capital for, that you can then evaluate for yourself or together with your financial advisor about how an investment in something like that might work for your portfolio. We have a lot of people that we talk to all the time whose financial advisors are actually helping them to designate a certain percentage of their portfolio to direct investing. And this is a way for people to really align what's important to them with what their money is doing. You probably know from the news about all the double talking that we hear constantly these days about our mega corporations who are saying one thing, they're paying for professional image control so that we all sort of love them and like them, and yet they're doing things that are contrary to those publicly stated positions behind the scenes. A lot of people are frustrated with that. A lot of people would like to see less power in Wall Street in Washington, more power in our local communities, so that we can build strong, resilient communities. I'm so excited that we're here today and have this opportunity to introduce you. So I really do want to get to the part of the presentation that you probably care the most about, which is hearing from specific companies that are in Montana who are working toward a solution for what they perceive as a problem and a need in the great state of Montana. So Andrew, I will turn it over to you to sort of do the lineup, and we will all listen and learn.
Super. Thanks, Michelle. And yeah, just want to really give a shout out to Michelle and Crowdfund Main Street, because just been very positive and from the get-go said yes all along the way to making this happen. So big thanks to Michelle for making Crowdfund Montana a reality. All right, we're going to start with Ryan Buffington, who's based in Great Falls, Montana. He is one of our clients who we've been working with recently, who is not yet on the platform, but will be soon. So Ryan, I'll turn it over to you. Go ahead and take it away.
All right, thanks, Andrew. I will share my screen here. So I guess to get started, before I get started, I am required to read a disclaimer. We are currently raising money from accredited investors only under Rule 506C, but we're also doing a testing the waters advertisement in anticipation of launching the regulation crowdfunding campaign in the future. So we're required by law to disclose that we're not soliciting money in the testing the waters campaign, and no investment can be received until we file our Form C and our campaign goes live. You can submit your email address as an indication of interest, and we'll notify you if and when our regulation crowdfunding offering goes live. So as I said, my name is Ryan Buffington, and as Andrew stated, I live in Great Falls, and this is where I grew up as well. Great Falls has always been a huge sports town, and there's been several people who grew up here that have gone on to play college and professionally. So the opportunities to play sports at higher levels has grown immensely since I was a kid. But the challenge we have in our area is that the window of time each year that we can play and train outdoors for our individual sports is very limited by the weather patterns that occur here in Great Falls. All my kids play outdoor sports. Are you guys seeing my presentation here?
No, we need your screen shared.
Oh, yeah, okay. That would help. Let's see, that one. There we go. So, you know, if it isn't snowing, there's 40-mile-per-hour wind, or it's too hot, or we'll have lightning that will occur, or we get horrible air quality due to wildfire fire smoke. So, I mean, the biggest need that the project that we're proposing will fill is to provide, you know, current and future generations access to a facility that they can use to raise their level to compete with athletes in other areas of the country that can train year-round in most cases. So providing a facility and the opportunities for year-round training will basically level the playing field, so to speak, and allow them to improve their level that will get them noticed by, schools and teams that are looking to offer scholarships as well as other opportunities to play at higher levels. So our facility will also provide an amazing space for non-athletes as well as for the community to come and gather during all seasons. We're well underway with developing the plans for this indoor sports facility. This is kind of the floor plan that we're looking at. This is the facility that we're proposing. So we will have kind of basketball courts and 4 full-size volleyball courts, a turf field, locker rooms, concessions, offices, and also a couple tenant spaces and some batting cages. We've actually hired an architect who has compiled a fly-through, and so we will play that right now. So this is just a 3D rendering of what the facility is going to look like. As you walk in, you'll be facing, the turf field, the athletic field right there. There'll be some space to sit and observe. There will also be kind of on this end will be where the tenant spaces are and the batting cages. So as we turn and head back down the other way, as you walk in, there's the registration office, a couple of other offices for the owners. We'll have kind of a meeting room. There's our concession stand. We're also going to have both men's and women's locker rooms, just spaces for teams to prepare for people to come and store all their stuff. I guess out the door and through this side is where all the court space will be. Again, like I said, there's 4 full-size volleyball courts or 2 full-size basketball courts going the other way. Right there, you can kind of see our party room or our, just prep room, whatever. We can rent those spaces out. We will have an elevator for ADA access, and then up above there will be a mezzanine that overlooks both fields and court. So parents can sit up there, drop their kids off, grab something from the concession stand and sit up there and watch or work. And we'll also have some other spaces like that where there'll be some pool tables or some workout equipment for people to hang out with. So very exciting. Oops. So the location that we're looking at is right here in Great Falls, is in Marketplace. The Home Depot is kind of the big anchor right there, but it's right behind the Hilton Garden Inn. There's a piece of land over there that we're in the process of securing. And then we've also talked to a good number of user groups that have all expressed interest in using the facility. Some of them have already also signed letters of intent for year-round use of some of the spaces. Again, my name is Ryan Buffington. I'm a senior civil engineer at TD&H Engineering. So we've already really worked through a lot of the development plans for the project. We met with the city, basically gotten preliminary sign-off from them. My partner, Carrie Bates, she is a marketing professional who has, over a decade of experience in, digital marketing and media. She's going to be handling, the website and all of our marketing and our public relations. We've also got a great team of people. We've worked with the Development Authority, the Great Falls Development Authority, and we've talked to banks and accountants and lawyers, and there's all kinds of people involved already. One of the biggest ones is the Sports Facilities Company. This is a group of professional operations and management company with, they own and operate, they don't own, but they help operate over 600 facilities under their umbrella, and their track record for success of managing facilities just like this is second to none. So they're going to be brought on board to oversee the setup and management of the facility from pre-opening on, where they'll interview and hire the staff, and as well as ongoing staff management and accountability. So, great company to have running the facility. So as outside of using this court spaces, we will also have day camps for kids. We'll have the concession stands, people will be available for field rental or court rental. We'll have birthday parties. And also, like I said, will be a couple of tenant spaces, like a coffee shop or, childcare or, some kind of physical therapist, something like that on the ends. We haven't secured that yet, but in the process. So that's the long and short of it. We're just, project is really just an unprecedented opportunity to invest in your friends and family's children's athletic futures as well as the livelihood of Great Falls. So we've got the team in place and our designs are basically complete. So now all we need is the support of the community and we'll make it happen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. That's great. And I just wanted to say to everyone too, I forgot to mention earlier, we have time set aside for Q&A at the end of the session today. And that will be any sort of questions you have about Crowdfund Montana in general, the offering that Ryan just pitched on, and then our next presenter as well. So you can stick those questions in the chat for now, if you'd like, and we will have the opportunity to get to those afterwards. So yeah, I'm going to hand it over now to our presenter who actually, as I mentioned, they are live on the platform. So this is an actual investment offering that you can participate in currently. So Elvis, take it away.
All right, thanks, Andrew. As Andrew said, my name is Elvis Nuno. I am the president of the Pacific Northwest Rural Broadband Alliance. I'm going ahead and start off my presentation here and give you all guys an idea of who we are and what we're doing. Everyone see that? Great. All right. So as I said, I am president of the Pacific Northwest Rural Broadband Alliance. So we're here to talk to you today about America's broadband crisis and the solution that we provide. So for decades, Americans' access to modern broadband service has really been in steady decline. Over the years, it's become more and more difficult for low-income families and rural communities to access broadband service. Currently, even over 30% of rural households that make over $75,000 a year can't access broadband. During the pandemic, corporate internet providers really failed to expand access when we really needed it the most. Here in Montana, we rank 50th in the country when it comes to broadband access. So the residents of our state have really truly suffered from this lack of access, paying the highest prices for the slowest speeds, which has really dramatically stifled people's ability to work from home, children to access distance learning, and just the growth of businesses that require faster and modern connectivity. So it's our mission as a nonprofit 501c3 to provide rural communities with the tools and support that they need to solve broadband access issues on their own with a bottom-up community-owned and operated solution that doesn't require the need for national incumbent telecoms to deem their community profitable enough to earn the attention to gain the level of broadband service that they truly need. So let's first understand why current internet provider model is too costly and inefficient to provide broadband to areas that need it the most. So internet providers currently work on a centralized model where they spend immense capital burying miles of cable and wiring each home individually. Even current wireless ISPs rely on building or leasing centralized towers that are limited in range, heavily impacted by the geography around them. This makes their networks really unreliable, extremely expensive, and requiring years to decades to ROI. So we take an entirely different approach that allows us to build profitable networks for communities that these major providers have left largely ignored. We use a proven technology that's being deployed in communities around the world called Althea to build decentralized mesh networks that are entirely community operated. So our organization starts by sourcing a wholesale fiber connection, and then from this point we communicate or we coordinate with the community to construct a mesh network of customer-owned relays. These are just additional antennas that are mounted on homes, businesses, and other privately owned freestanding structures that provide those around them with fully secure and encrypted internet service. So customers are incentivized to host these relays by receiving a real-time revenue for providing service to those around them. So this model allows us to quickly build profitable networks where traditional providers are otherwise unable to operate, making that market of over 70 million people currently trapped in the digital divide accessible for the first time. So who are we? What makes us qualified to solve this problem? We're a team of veteran ISP and network engineers with a combined 50+ years experience working in the telecom and technology field. We work for companies like Sprint, building the country's first 4G network, and numerous other Fortune 500 companies. We know every detail of what makes our country's largest internet providers work. We know what makes them inefficient, and all the ways they get away with charging high prices while delivering the lowest quality service. So we started this organization because we're passionate about technology, and we wanted to apply our knowledge that we've gained over the years to make a positive impact on rural communities by creating a high quality broadband networks that are owned for the people, by the people. So what have we accomplished so far? So in December 2020, we began the soft launch of our flagship network that's here in Missoula, Montana, in the Grant Creek area to prove out the capabilities of the technology that we're working with. We refined our network so that we can scale it to meet the demand of nearly 550 customer pre-registrations that we've already received, and the potential thousands of customers in the Missoula and Bitterroot Valley that are currently cut off from broadband. We have a high demand from customers that want a local alternative from companies like Spectrum that have maintained a stranglehold over most of Montana. Our network provides speeds that exceed that of other local providers. Our average customers pay $50 to $70 per month. Light internet users pay only $25 to $30 per month, and large families or heavy internet users paying in the $90 to $100 range. So as you can kind of see, when our service is stacked up against other providers, we're capable of outperforming them with both speed and price, not to mention the fact that we're the only ISP that provides a community-owned, fully encrypted and secure network that pays our customers for contributing to its growth. So we're actually forming a lot of really exciting partnerships with some really incredible companies and organizations. The one that I really want to focus on the most is our partnership with Mission West Community Development Partners, because it's really vital to our core organizational model, where we're currently developing this model where we help communities form their own broadband co-ops. We go in and construct the initial network gateways to get the network started, and then we provide all the support that they need to make their network successful. So this has the this not only provides broadband service to these communities that need it, but also creates a successful organization that builds highly skilled and sustainable jobs that Montana desperately needs. So we hope to take this model and then replicate it to other communities across Montana and other states throughout the Pacific Northwest. So sort of in conclusion, we're raising funds through this campaign that will be really instrumental to allow our ability to fully realize our organization's potential, meet our existing demand, and make a positive and lasting impact on Montanans' rural access to broadband. So hope everyone's sort of enjoyed our presentation. We encourage everyone to review our campaign page that is currently live on Crowdfund Montana and learn more about what we hope to accomplish now and in the future. We are open to anyone reaching out to us individually, and we encourage people to do so.
Super. Thank you so much, Elvis. Appreciate that. So there have been a couple questions that have popped up in the chat, and I just want to say that, yeah, feel free to put questions in the chat. We are probably just under the threshold. I'm going to just go ahead and take a chance here. Say people can go ahead and unmute themselves and ask questions if they want to. If you'd rather raise your hand, you go, I think, down to the reactions button. If you want to raise your hand, if that would make you feel better, I can do it that way, or you can just unmute yourself. Two questions have popped up in the chat. Michelle spoke to one of them. I just want to say further, one of the questions was, there's significant reporting requirements. Would Crowdfund Main Street or Crowdfund Montana help with these requirements? And yeah, Michelle said yes. Basically, Crowdfund Main Street helps with all that legal preparation, all the work, etc. And another part of the arrangement is that the Center for Community Ownership is a real partner in sort of getting stuff done too. And maybe Elvis and Ryan could speak to this. We have been going through many months of processes of helping develop materials, working on pitches, getting everything together, getting the financial statements together. So basically, we try to really be super supportive every step of the way to make a campaign successful, because it's really essential when you're trying to put one of these things together. You can't just stick it up on the internet and hope that it gets funded. There's really a lot of work that goes into it, both on the compliance side and on having a really solid campaign as well. So Crowdfund Main Street, Crowdfund Montana provides all that kind of legal back-end, support with the compliance. And then the Center for Community Ownership really works with the client for the on-the-ground stuff and helping them get ready and things like that. Michelle, was there anything else that you wanted to say about any of that?
Yeah, I just want to say that, Crowdfund Main Street is the licensed portal, the entity that's 100% responsible for both Crowdfund Main Street and Crowdfund Montana. And our goal in collaborating with organizations like the Center for Community Ownership is that it makes a lot more sense for an organization that is in the local area that is being highlighted on a particular portal to be involved and available for hire, so that their services, their consulting services, can be used by anyone who's interested in this. So that's a great help. A lot of people who raise money using investment crowdfunding really want someone to work with them who understands the ins and outs of the communications requirements and channels, and also building out the campaign itself. Crowdfund Main Street is responsible for the regulatory side of things, the compliance side. Because you're required to use a portal, that's who the regulators, in addition to the company raising the money, holds responsible for following all the rules. And we take that job very seriously, and definitely look for compliance in both the campaign as well as the preparation of the regulatory filings.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. Mike asked a question, is there a vetting process for companies that want to take this route? And yes, we basically meet with people and have extensive conversations to find out sort of, first of all, if it's a good fit. Crowdfunding is not the right fit for everybody. So that's a part of the vetting, is to sort of just figure out if it's a good fit, if it makes sense for the goals of the folks who are looking to raise the investment capital. And yeah, it's important for us that the people who raise funds be, similarly kind of values aligned, community oriented. We want to support businesses that we feel good about and that we're, really helping to put out into the world. And people need to be ready as well. Certain kind of have things sort of organize them together in such a fashion that's going to make it likely that they're going to be successful, because we don't want to set anyone up to not be successful. So. Yeah, Michelle, you answered that question. Anyone can invest. Doesn't have to be just Montana residents. Anybody can invest. And that's a big part of what can make this so powerful. What other questions do folks have?
I can talk about the vetting.
Yeah, go for it.
So every platform has to have sort of a set of criteria that they use to evaluate companies. For me at Crowdfund Main Street, what I'm primarily looking for is that the company is actually ready to steward investor capital, meaning that they have a solid handle on their financials. They know you wouldn't be raising money if you had money. So it's not about having money, it's about understanding what amount of money that you need and what you intend to do with it, and a forward-looking projection as to how and when you're going to be able to pay back your investors. What this does for you as a company looking to raise money is it really helps you figure out what you should be offering your investors. One of the things that Crowdfund Main Street does that's very different from a lot of other platforms is we don't allow you to just take a cookie cutter instrument off the shelf and say, I'm using a safe, I'm using a convertible note that you yourself may not even understand. So one of the requirements for me at Crowdfund Main Street is that the issuer, the company looking to raise the money, actually understands what it is they're offering, and they picked it because it's right for them and what they're doing. That makes it easier to meet your objectives. You don't have anything to base it off of if you don't do those financial projections and have a handle on that for your company. So that's a huge one. We also look at the team. We look at who's doing this. What kind of bandwidth, what kind of experience do they have? Is this something that makes sense for them? Are they in it for all the right reasons? In addition, Crowdfund Main Street is really interested in the economic development potential of investment crowdfunding. So we want to know what your values are, what your vision is for the future. We care about how you are going to exit your investors in terms of what kind of offering you're going to do. And we also care about whether or not you're a company that's going to be corporately responsible and a good citizen. Those are some of the things that we care a lot about in terms of evaluating who might be a fit for Crowdfund Main Street.
Super. Thanks, Michelle. Another couple questions in the chat here. Are reporting requirements for companies raising capital this way similar to traditional SEC reporting requirements? Michelle?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for most companies, there's one report that's due in the year following the raise. It's rare. You have to have a lot of shareholders and some other economic factors to have to qualify to have to do more than that one report. But all companies that raise money have to do at least one report. And it's very similar to the Form C. So what it really does is it updates the numbers that we first provided in the Form C, and it gives us a different sense now that the company has raised money. So that one report is required, and it has to be posted on the company's website in the year following April 30th, usually by April 30th of the year following the raise. And I'll go ahead and address this next question. If the full amount isn't raised, that's a good question. There is a minimum, and we work with the companies to help them set the minimum. So in other words, you want an amount that, there's usually an amount below which that if you raise it, it's not even going to help you, right? So you want companies to determine what's the minimum amount that you could do something with. That's your minimum. If you meet that minimum, you get everything over and above that minimum, all the way up to your maximum, which you also state. Under regulation crowdfunding, you can raise as much as $5 million. So it depends on what level of financials that you're doing. To raise more than $1,070,000, you have to have audited financials. To raise more than $107,000, you have to have reviewed financials, except there's a little bit of a window. The SEC did do some emergency measures that allows anyone to raise up to $250,000 using certified financials, as long as the launch takes place before August 22nd of 2022. So there's still a little bit of time, and that was because of the pandemic. So companies will get the money, and a lot of companies are doing things the way that Pacific Northwest Broadband is doing it, where they're structuring their raise as a rolling close. And what that means is that as soon as they hit each of their milestones, they would be able to access and invest those investments. Because understand that before the minimum is met, the money's sitting in escrow. The money doesn't go directly from you to the company. We're an intermediary, and we're actually required to have yet a third party hold the money. So the money does not go to the company until either a milestone has been reached or the offering has closed, if they're doing a rolling close. But you are correct that you have to have a minimum to start. You also designate what your minimum investment is. And it is illegal to talk about the company and the terms of the offering in the same setting. So some of you may be wondering why the terms of the offer were not spoken about. And that is because we are not allowed to do that. The rules, the advertising rules, prohibit us from combining conversations that are more in depth about the company with the terms of the offering. I'll leave it to you to decide whether or not that's a good rule or not, but just understand that you can go to the, maybe Andrew or somebody can put the link to the campaign in the chat, and that's where you would go to look at the terms of the offering. So we're not being cagey, we're just being compliant here. So, and Anna asked a question about whether companies need to be revenue generating. The answer is no. But what happens as a practical matter, the earlier stage you are, the more difficult it is to raise capital. So that would mean that you have to have a really, really solid plan. You're also probably going to need some pretty patient capital. So you're going to want to look at the structure of your offering and how that could facilitate the more patient capital if it's not even revenue generating. And sometimes we talk to people about a first step before launching an investment crowdfunding campaign. One thing that's true about crowdfunding is whether it's rewards or investment, it's really about creating some of that momentum. You do a lot of work when you're raising money, regardless of what method you use, if you're doing it correctly. And this is no exception. It is, as Andrew pointed out, it is a lot of work, but we look at it like an opportunity to grow your business at the same time that you're capitalizing it. Obviously, if you're the CEO of a company, your job is to capitalize that company. And investment crowdfunding is just one way that you can do that.
Yeah, I'll just add to that, Michelle. I think that, and you can correct me if I'm away here from your perspective, but I think we're sort of a similar mind. If all the pieces are there to be successful, you know, I think we would both be happy and excited to work with a pre-revenue company. You know, if they really had a solid plan, really had the expertise, really could do things well, I think both Crowdfund Montana and the Center for Community Ownership would be excited to support that. But we wouldn't want to set somebody up if they weren't ready to, like you said earlier, sort of steward investor capital effectively. And that can just really, you know, people can be in the same stage of developing a business and be in really different places about whether they're really kind of ready to take investment or not, depending on their qualifications, their experience, their plan, and things like that. So I think it really would be kind of a situation dependent circumstance, very circumstantial. Another question from Anna. Would we have to be community-owned organization? Do you work with LCAs? Yeah, I don't know if this is the distinction that I think your first part of your question is asking there. The Center for Community Ownership, you know, a lot of our main work is with true, full community ownership, you know, where we're talking about 100% community owned, community governed, and things like that. That is not a requirement for participating on Crowdfund Montana. Individual entrepreneurs who are looking for community investment, but not necessarily looking to transition to community ownership, are absolutely more than welcome for Crowdfund Montana. So those are two very distinct things. The work that Center for Community Ownership does elsewhere is all about community ownership, not necessarily so for Crowdfund Montana. So I think that's hopefully that was an answer to your first question. Let me know if I didn't answer that correctly. Okay, great. Thank you for that.
Yeah, the requirement for regulation crowdfunding is that you be a US-based entity. So that's the only requirement.
I think, and that's Michelle speaking to the second part of your question, that yes, I think any entity that is a legal entity can use, that is based in the US, can use investment crowdfunding, including limited co-op association. There might be, I guess I should caveat that, sometimes co-ops have particular rules on their end in different states about restrictions they may face about raising capital, but Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, from an investment crowdfunding standpoint, no restrictions on that side of things. Does that sound?
I would say the only restriction to be mindful of, since we have an example Nonprofit entities are not permitted. Nonprofit entities cannot be owned by, there's no beneficial interest from any individual in a nonprofit entity. So the type of offering can be impacted depending on the kind of entity you are. But, thanks Christina for putting in that link for Jason. Jason's really great. Out of Colorado. So good stuff.
Great. Steve put a question in there about fees charged for services. I'll give a quick summary of that. We have one other topic that we wanted to sort of discuss before we get off. So I'll just give a summary of this. Michelle, maybe chime in if you want to. Some of this stuff is circumstantial, and I'll put the Center for Community Ownership website in the chat. You can reach out to me through there. And Michelle, I don't know if you want to put your email or what the best sort of contact is for you, but folks can also just reach out to me through there. Basically, some of the stuff is situation dependent, but our real goal is to make all of this as accessible and as affordable as possible.
Well, wait, we should distinguish though.
Yes.
So for purposes of the platform, the platform charges 6% of the amount raised, plus we get reimbursed for those third-party escrow costs. So that's unavoidable. You have no choice but to go to some platform if you're going to use regulation crowdfunding, and you will incur a success fee. We're very transparent about our fees. It's a flat 6%. I think it's actually one of the lowest in the industry, if not the lowest. And we are transparent. We do not charge investors unless we are instructed to do so by the company raising money. And in some cases that can make sense for a company to do that. But we don't add that. We don't make any money off of that money that's in escrow or those escrow services, but there is a direct, I learned the hard way. When I launched my company, I didn't have that reimbursement piece in there and I made nothing. So, I mean, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it's usually about 2.5% to 3% of the total is the expectation, depending on what you do, whether you take ACH or wires. Some things can add up, like wire fees tend to add up, whereas ACH is very inexpensive. Although the current people in the space who are doing the escrow side of this are trying to eliminate the cheaper options. I'll just have you know that in advance. But then on top of that, to get outside support, whether that be an attorney or an organization like Center for Community Ownership, Andrew can speak to how those fees are calculated. So yeah. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. And what I would just say is, Steve, if you want to reach out, we can sort of get into the nitty gritty on that. But the short answer is, there's a small upfront fee that covers some of the upfront legal expenses. And then we try to push as much of the fee onto kind of the back end so that people can pay for the expenses out of the raise itself. So we can talk more about those details and the exact numbers around the situation and so forth. If you or anyone else wants to just kind of reach out, we can get into that in more detail. The only other thing that I wanted to make sure that we talk about is a great opportunity. There's an organization called Angels of Main Street, which is another partner of ours, which basically is similar to what we're trying to do in Montana, sort of trying to cultivate a community of investors nationwide that support values-driven, community-oriented businesses. And they are doing a totally free of charge due diligence program that lasts, I think it's 5 or 6 weeks. And basically, it's a way for people who are interested in becoming community investors to learn more about the investment process. So they're going to step through different topics each week, and Michelle is going to be a part of supporting with legal expertise. And actually, the Pacific Northwest Rural Broadband Alliance is going to be the subject of sort of examination. And basically what it's going to do is teach people how to look at an investment offering, interpret it, read financial statements, look at the use of fund statements, do all the things that a direct investor needs to do to make sure that they feel comfortable that they're making an informed, intelligent investment decision. So it's this really great opportunity where people can basically learn a lot of what they need to know to do due diligence on investment opportunities. So that's something that, like I said, it's going to be offered and run by Angels of Main Street free of charge starting in just a few weeks. So if you're interested in participating in that, again, you can reach out to either Michelle or I through that information that's in the chat, and we would be more than happy to connect you with the info for that. Michelle, anything else you want to say about the due diligence program? You're muted.
Yeah. I'm going to put the email for the individual who is going to moderate and facilitate the due diligence group. Her name is Amy Short. Amy Short is a successful entrepreneur. She built a company and then sold it. And then when she made all that money, she became an investor, and learned during that process of going to pitch sessions and seeing presentations in the Angels groups that she was a part of, that she really didn't have a taste for some of the more venture style funding vehicles and processes. So got herself educated on how to actually evaluate different investments, ones that were on a different path, and came up with a very, thorough due diligence process that she's, happy to share. And I think that it behooves everyone, people who are looking to raise money, it's a great idea for you to be a fly on the wall and see what other people are doing, what other people are thinking, and what questions are the folks who are evaluating the offer, what are they asking about? So that when it does come time for you to raise money yourself, you have some inside view about the process for due diligence, which is really just the process of picking apart and evaluating a specific investment and whether or not it happens to be a fit for you, which is what you're deciding as a direct investor. So it's a great opportunity. Plus, it's another way for us to move the needle a little bit on changing access to financial capital, right? So one of the things that we want to do, and we're really early stages, is we really want to see a time when it's pretty easy to get the capital that you need. Obviously, you still have to do the work and you still have to be prepared and you still have to do your disclosures, but it shouldn't be this hard to get the businesses that need funding funded. Regulation crowdfunding is not perfect, but it is right now the best tool that we have to start making a huge impact in what we can do in our community so that we don't end up all looking like Anywhere USA. So I know we're about out of time. So thank you everybody for joining us, and I'll turn it over to you, Andrew, to close it out.
Yeah, thanks so much, Michelle. Thanks for being here. And thanks again to all of you for being here. We really appreciate your attention and your time. And check out crowdfundmontana.com and contact info for Michelle and I in the chat. And reach out if you have any other questions or thoughts. And thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.